Clause 3, Amendment of Part 2.
The question is that Clause 3, Amendment of Part 2, do stand as part of the bill. I acknowledge the Honourable Member for St. Philip South, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the opposition, we want to add in to Clause 2, the section where it says, on the Principal Act is amended to blah, 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 and if the supply of most possesses high levels of sucrose at 20%. So the opposition is looking to add in a subsidization segment into this bill as well too, and we can...
Just to be clear, Honourable Member, you're speaking in relation to Clause 2 or Clause 3, as Clause 2 has already been...
It's Clause 3, which one we just voted on?
You just voted, well, we just spoke about
interpretation.
Clause 3. The interpretation section has already been...
It has already been passed.
Yes,
okay,
so
not that.
Passed. So you're speaking to Clause 3,
Clause
Amendment
3.
of Part 2.
Yes.
And what is your suggestion?
We're suggesting, I mean, it's open for the government to contribute as well too, but we're suggesting that provision for subsidization be added into this, and the wording can be determined as we talk with the government. So we're saying any food that is on the, let's say, 15% sucrose level or 10% sucrose level, we can subsidize them. I don't know if the government's up to that.
Just a quick input there. Because of the nature of this bill, I mean, because I read the 2006 anti-Zimbabwe sales tax, but I don't think we can specifically make provision for subsidization. I think that has to be separate, like a separate legislation.
Okay, so instead of subsidization, can we just move the sales tax or reduce the percentage of the tax on that?
To what percent? What percent would you?
So,
what would you suggest?
If the standard rate across the board is now 17%, can we drop it down to 10%? Is that reasonable to the government for the poor people in this country? So what I'm saying is, instead of only saying we taxing sucrose items that are above 20%, right? We say we reduce the percentage of the sales tax on food items that have a lower sucrose level. We can say, yeah, a lower sucrose level. Yeah.
You have to turn on your mic.
So the AG, you were saying something in terms of you want to determine the percentage? We had to do that now, because this is the committee stage.
So you're suggesting from 20 to 15%?
10.
10%.
10. In terms of removing, because the sales tax as it stands now, the ABST on goods across the board stands at 17. Yeah. I'm proposing we drop it down to 10% on the healthy foods. But saying that, I should have said in the interpretation, we define what healthy foods are. I don't know if it's possible for us to go back to do that or no.
It would have to be, a motion will have to be moved.
For us to go back.
And the members will have to agree if it is that we're going to go back to the interpretation section.
Yeah.
Could we settle with 15%? You want to put 10%?
So what I'm saying is reduce the ABST
subsidizing
down to 10% rather than subsidizing
on healthier foods.
On healthier foods.
Subsidizing the cost of them. So you want to drop.
Yeah, drop it from
So that's what I'm
17
saying,
to 10.
Rather than, that's a significant drop. So that's what I'm saying. Rather than 10%, would it be to 15%?
What about-
You have to be mindful as well, sorry, honourable members, that as it relates to some of the items that are in the action plan that we, or the government side has sought to subsidize, that the general tax is not taxed on some of them. So decreasing the tax, you'd have to think about the question of, is it really doing what your intention is? Because if there is no tax at all already placed on them, because not every food item has tax. So I know like water, I believe it's
and
maybe
local
flowers
produce,
and eggs.
local produce
They
doesn't
don't
have tax on them.
They already do not have that ABST on them. So to put in the act that you want to decrease the ABST to 10% on something that is already not taxed would not make sense to put, or I humbly submit would not make sense to put into the bill.
Okay, so what I would say to that is, for example, for those of us who are pre-diabetic, as we would have said, or diabetic, there's special cooking oils that those persons with that disposition or hypertension have to use. and those cooking oils do have the tax. Or like I mentioned in my presentation, there is a special type of bread, even if it's gluten-free. I can't remember the exact name of the bread that persons with certain diseases have that they have to consume if they want to consume bread. So those things, they don't fall under the essential food items that don't have the tax, so they serve the tax. So when we're defining healthy foods in the interpretation, if we go back to it, we can, to make it clear that those are items, for example, we're targeting. So not essential food items, but healthy food options that are, as it stands now, are expensive. That's what we're targeting. So that's clear? 15? Okay, if you're saying at 15,
Yeah,
15 it is. All right, 15. We're going to 15, Madam Speaker.
This, just to be clear, this is 15% on what exactly?
So,
Because remember, we're speaking about the fact that some of the items that are in the action plan, which I believe is what you're referring to, are already zero-rated items.
so what we can call them is healthy, non-essential food items. Because I think what we're talking about, y'all referencing that don't have the tax, is
Just a suggestion. I think maybe what we can probably do is to add maybe another schedule that can probably, like you say, highlight some of the things that you said that we can add to decrease it to the 10%. Yeah.
So you're saying have another debate to talk about that? That's what you're saying?
No.
Why?
No,
On
well,
the
see,
schedule.
given
On
the
the
fact that
schedule.
we're in the committee stage right now,
Yeah.
as part of the schedule, when we reach to that stage, there can be an addition of a schedule or even maybe a subsection under Schedule 6 that would highlight the items that both sides wish to add to this bill and to have that percentage taxed on.
I understand. I don't want to sound thing, but I'm not sure that all of us would get every food item possible that would fall in that
Well,
bracket
then you
into the
include a
schedule.
catch-all phrase. You include a
That's why I want to go back to the
subsection.
interpretation, and so that would be the catch-all phrase. Instead of actually listing everything, we can just move a motion to go back to the interpretation and call it non-essential, healthy food items.
We'll move the motion.
Okay, I'd like to move the motion that we can go back to the interpretation section of the bill.
I'd like to second the motion.
Okay.
It has been moved and seconded that we move back to the interpretation section of the bill. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those against? I think the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk?
Clause 2, interpretation.
So we add in.
You can begin the
Yes.
discussion.
Okay. So I'd like to propose that we add in another. What do you call it? Another item on this list, and we call it healthy, non-essential food items. So we already have unhealthy foods. So we're also describing healthy, non-essential food items. Non-essential specifically because we're targeting the ones that are not already zero-rated. That's good? Okay, so and I think that covers it, so we have to go out and list them.
If you're putting it into the interpretation section, you also need to not just say the word healthy, non-essential food items, but you need to give a definition.
Okay, so food items that are below, what is it? They said sucrose levels of, so sucrose levels that are below 15%. So those food items that have a lower than 15% sucrose levels that are not already zero rated in terms of the tax. Is that clear enough? Or okay. All right.
Is the government side in agreement with the suggestion by a member of the opposition? So can we repeat it, please, for the sake of noting?
Yeah, so the term would be healthy, non-essential food items, and we define it as food items that have a sucrose level of below 15% that are not already zero rated.
I'm right.
Oh, sorry, I thought so
Refers to any food items that
have a sucrose level below 15% that are not already zero rated. What's that English? That are not already. That are not.
are there any other suggestions under this section?
No, ma'am.
The question then stands, or the question then is, that clause 2, with the addition of healthy non-essential food items, which refers to any foods items that have a sucrose level below 15% that are not already zero rated, do stand as part of this bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against? I think the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk?
Clause 3, amendment of Part 2.
Yes. So having said that, Madam Speaker, now for clause 3, we'd like to add in the section where we reduce the ABST on, sorry, oh yeah, might be that. Yes, so now we can reduce the ABST on those healthy non-essential food items, and we can talk about the rate in which ones reduce it to. So it's now, the ABST now stands at 17%.
I didn't hear that.
So the ABST on those food items that we just talked about now stand at 17%. So can we reduce it down to, that's only 2, it just raised by 2 in January, so just going back to what it was before is not really much of a change.
Like 13?
13%? 13%.
The suggestion that you're making would have to be, you'd have to state to me exactly where in the Principal Act that this addition is going to be made. As I know that we're speaking to amendment of Part 2, but Part 2 is a pretty lengthy and has different subsections. So you need to indicate exactly where in Part 2 is that amendment going to be included. Is it going to be included as a another subsection, another clause? You need to indicate that.
We can keep it in the same section and clause mentioned in the bill, section 8, clause 3 of the original act. Amending that as well.
Sorry about that.
So we're sticking to the same. So it's part 2, section 8, clause 3, just adding it to that same part of the original bill from 2006. I think it is.
Right, but what I'm stating is, if you look at the wording of the bill, it says the Principal Act is amended in Part 2, Section 8, Clause 3, by adding Clause E to state the following.
Oh, my apologies.
So you need
add
to
clause
tell me
F. So still section 8, clause 3, we're adding clause F.
Okay, so you're saying you want to add it as Part F. Okay. Is the government side in agreement with adding clause, well, subsection F to this section and including it to say what exactly?
Sorry. Yes, Madam Speaker. So we're going to reduce the ABST to 13% on the previously defined healthy, non-essential food items. Is that what that's all called? Yeah.
I think we should leave it at 15% rather than 13%, because you do have to take into consideration that taxes are important when it comes to public spending. And we've had that tax of 15% from 2006 to 2023, right? And to drop it from the 17 down to a 13.
But it's only a very small number of.
Can we at least settle with 15? 15 is okay.
Yeah, because the reality is also what we just debated. You know, we might even though that we would have indicated how many revenues we might make. You know, at the same time we also going to be subsidizing. So at the same time, I find that we might be subsidizing based on the fact that we might not be bringing in so many revenues. So at the same time, it's a give and take. So at the same time, I think we should just leave it at the original amount for now, and then maybe another time we can probably look to amend that.
But okay, let me make the suggestion. If we say 14 compromise and think about the effect that the government would have by saying reduce, the taxes on goods. Your government would get the praise. the 14 will go down well with the people, you know.
So can we settle on 14?
14, compromise.
I don't
So you're sticking to the 15. All
I
right,
got a 50 for them.
all right, 15 it is. So 15, Madam Chair.
So far the interpretation, right? Okay. Yeah, I know.
So to read it before we put it to a vote, it will then read, based on how the legislation is crafted, the rate of ABST applicable to a taxable supply or import is, if the supplier import is a healthy non-essential food item, 15%. Are there any further suggestions or conversations that need to be had as it relates to clause 3 before we put it to a vote? The question is then that clause 3, with the addition of subsection F, which states if the supplier import is a healthy non-essential food item, 15%, do stand as part of this bill. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk?
Schedule 6, sugary foods.
I have a suggestion for that one. I think that the F protein bars should be removed for the reason being that protein bars are essential for many athletes, and even before it was removed from your action plan, you had protein bars that were going to be distributed. And the reason why protein bars are so high in sugar is because it's supposed to build you back up after you've done exercise. So I think this will have a negative effect on people that are actually trying to exercise and going to the gym. So I think it should be removed since it has the benefits of what it's trying to do.
Likewise to vitamin water and breakfast cereal. It needs to be a proper explanation for breakfast cereal because Kellogg's falls on the breakfast cereal as well. Cornflakes, what the locals call it.
Right, but then when you look at it also, we're saying that we're taxing basically because that has 20% sucrose level inside of it. So if you look at, for instance, the labeling on the cereal, you can identify which one is high in sugar. So, I don't know if that would provide some clarity there to you. So, basically, there's some breakfast cereal that has less than 20% in sugar. Like I just highlighted, there's one that has zero sugar inside of it. So, I do understand and take what you're saying into consideration, but there's some cereals that are 20% less than sugar.
So just a quick thing to make so there's no confusion once it is passed. Perhaps we can add into on the sugary foods there's a line that's called 1. An item list in one of the lists below shall be taxed at special rates. So we can say an item list with the required sucrose level, required or previously mentioned sucrose level, whatever you want to say. So add in specifically that the item that has the sucrose level, that is what's going to be taxed. So there's no confusion with the breakfast cereal. Yeah.
But a lot of persons, I understand what you're saying with the protein bars and the, athletes needing it, but I've come to realize a lot of persons in Antigua eating these things out of proportion. They're just using them as regular snacks and they're not burning off the calories they've, the sugar they've eaten from that. So with that, you have to be more specific.
You go ahead.
I understand that, but it's kind of hard to be specific because then are we going to be policing and saying, hey, you can't get protein bars unless you're at the gym or something like that? So that's why I said I think we should just take it out because yes, there are going to be people that are going to abuse it, but how much of those are the majority of people that consume protein bars?
Well, we don't want to create a disparity where persons only get access to these things if they're going to the gym or if they're athletes and stuff, but at the end of the day, these things are doing more harm than good to your body. All the artificial sweeteners and all the artificial proteins factories are packing into these products. They're healthier options you could use to build back your muscles and to build back up the fat you've lost while you have trained.
Okay, well, as I said, I think we should replace protein bars with probably sugar, since if sugar is a sugary food, and at least add flour, and we can replace vitamin water and protein bars with sugar and flour.
I think just to provide some clarity on what you said, member, what we can probably do is, you can probably have a look at it. An item list in one of the lists below shall be taxed at a special rate as outlined in section 8 of this act if the sucrose level is beyond 20%.
That is a reasonable, yeah, that's reasonable.
So you can add that.
As it relates to the suggestions about removal of items from the schedule, there needs to be an agreement on both sides as to what is being removed so that we can make those edits. Which items are being removed?
I would like protein bars to be removed.
Is the government side in agreement with the removal of protein bars from the schedule?
For the sake of our athletes, please.
Is the government side in agreement with the removal of the protein
Come
bars
on, it was
off
even
the
on the
schedule?
action plan.
The Prime Minister. He's speaking to them.
I think for now we will not remove it. Well, sorry, not add it, and then probably during the course of time, over some period, we can always look and go back to that and probably potentially add it or remove it. Yeah.
Any
And
other
what about
suggestions?
flour?
You want to add flour on the list?
Yes.
No.
Flour and sugar. Well, white sugar, let me be specific. White sugar. I want to add white sugar and flour. The flour that is bad for you, I don't remember the name for it right now. But we want to try to push people to get like wheat flour, that type of stuff. So let's push the flour that's bad for you, the pre-sifted or whatever it is. So I want to add that and white sugar to the
Well,
list.
to be honest, sugar is sugar, no matter the color of it, if it's brown or white. And when it comes to flour as well, you have to realize flour is a very high starchy food, which then turns into glucose, which can also, with
Yeah, but white
excessive
sugar is like
consumption of it.
the worst part of it. White sugar is the worst. I only know that from my mom, apparently. So if I'm wrong, then blame my mom.
But then if we add flour, a lot of bakers, a lot of persons that own restaurants and stuff, is going to create a problem where they would have to...
I understand that, but there are other, well, as I said... we
Flour
can-
is essential in most dishes across any culture.
Okay, so I'll ease up on the flour for now, then if it's...
Honorable members, I know that there's a discourse as it relates to flour, but this particular section speaks to where the sucrose level is beyond 20%. I don't believe that flour would be falling under
So what about
this.
the white sugar then? I said I'll ease on the flour to add the white sugar.
It is for discourse.
Just a question about the sucrose level of 20%. So it's only alcohol that's over the 20% sugar level then, and I don't drink alcohol, so you guys can probably help me out. What type of alcohol will fall under that?
All.
So all alcohol are sugar.
Yes, but sugar, at the end of the day, sugar is sugar. It's kind of a cheap commodity, but if we're going to put tax on sugar, add it to the schedule, it doesn't make sense because we all know sugar is beyond the 20%.
Well, I said the white sugar, the one that's
It
bad
is
for you.
beyond
Yes,
brown, white,
so
pink,
let's
or
add,
purple. It's
let's
beyond
add the
the
white sugar
20%.
because the white sugar is the one that's most harmful for you. So let's add white sugar to that list. to have people to get more either cane sugar or the brown sugar, whatever it is.
Sugar is going to cause persons that have bakeries, restaurants, and other persons.
I understand that, but I don't think you understand home economics of the white sugar being
I do understand.
worse
I
for
do.
you. So I think we should
Honourable
add that
members.
as if it's R. So I don't know if you can move that to a vote to add white sugar.
Are you considering restaurant and bakery owners, small business owners, especially those that make
Yes, and I'm
juice?
saying that we can, the alternatives of the brown sugar and the cane sugar that are there.
But most juices does not taste good with brown sugar. It will spoil the business on a whole.
But then, apart this bill, aren't we supposed to try to find healthy alternatives to cut
But
that
the
out?
healthy alternatives are more expensive. If we use coconut sugar, it's more money. But then you cannot.
Madam
sugar.
Speaker, I think that is all I have to say, because I think that this bill is now becoming contradictory, because we are saying the exact same thing that you're trying to say in the bill, but I think you're not getting the point of it. So
Okay, in the interest of time, I'm just asking that we can probably move forward to continue with our segments. Like I said, maybe another time we can, look to amend the sections. But in the interest of time, can we just move forward and vote?
No. So to be clear, as it relates to Schedule 6, the only amendments that we are making, which are to be voted on at this stage, are where it states an item list in one of the lists below shall be taxed at a special rate as outlined, and the amendment is, as outlined in Section 8 of this Act if the sucrose level is beyond 20%. That is the first amendment, and the second amendment is the removal of subsection F, which is protein bars. Those are the two amendments being made to this Schedule 6. So the question is that Schedule 6, sugary foods, does stand as part of this bill. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. I think the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk?
Enacting clause.
The question is that the enacting clause do stand as part of this bill. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against? I think the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk?
The title.
The question is that the title do stand as part of the bill. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it.